I'm seeing a lot of those posts about everything that's been happening in Minneapolis over the last few days about George Floyd and the unprovoked attack on him that resulted in the loss of his life at the hands of police officials in my hometown. And I think it sounds really bad to say, but I almost don't have a reaction to yet another life of a black individual, or I should say a BIPOC, a black indigenous person of color, uh, at the hands of a white person. I have no statistics on how many people have been victimized in this sort of situation, have been injured or brutalized or murdered, modern day lynchings and all of that. Uh, every time I hear about one, it's just the fact that it's another on a pile of any number at all is shameful, disgusting. I think what beyond the loss of life, which I don't honestly think I can ever decry as a positive. Even when like Osama bin Laden was killed, I don't think I would celebrate that. I Why should one person ever have the power of life or death over another? Putting that very weighty consideration momentarily to the side, just the inactivity, the inertia, the resistance to any sort of reform by those in power. It's not that those in power necessarily don't want to do something, it's that they meet enough resistance that they won't fight through it. And that's, I think, again, apart from the loss of life, I think the frustration of no evolution in terms of policy, in terms of training, in terms of hiring practices, in terms of oversight, like the body cams on police do nothing if the footage is not used for justice. I don't think they've released the body cam footage from the cops yet. I don't know if they ever will. But that lack of it's not a lack of reaction, it's a lack of reactive action is so disheartening. And then on top of that, you have the rioting. And I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna say that riots shouldn't happen, because I think it was Martin Luther King who said something along the lines of riots are the communication of the voiceless. And if that's the only way that people can get their voices heard, I cannot in good faith say that they shouldn't happen. When the Gilets jaunes were marching up and down streets of Paris every Saturday, it didn't hurt my heart to see banks smashed up, corporations, big box stores, because they have the budget to back it up. In Minneapolis right now, and for the last couple of days, there's been a lot of protesting, which turned to rioting, looting. There was in the same neighborhood as the police precinct where the riots are happening is a Target that was cleared out. I don't really care about that too much. Target is a national corporation. It's got the budget to cover. I'm sure they've got insurance up the wazoo. Like, my heart does not break for Target. My heart breaks for all of the mom and pops, all of the small businesses, many of them owned by immigrants or by people who are trying to, bootstrap their way up, which bootstraps is a whole other problematic issue, that are being vandalized, brutalized, victimized because people are seeing red. And again, I don't think it's necessarily a problem at this moment to be seeing red in direction of the police. But when that spreads to other people who are already so hurt by this pandemic, by economic strife, and now by loss of loss of merchandise, loss of by broken windows, and just psychological damage. That hurts my heart. I read some on my Facebook post that someone was talking about someone reacting to the looting, and he said, like, I think people should be looting. I think people should be enacting their rage on capitalism, because capitalism is a huge part of why people are subjugated in the U.S. And this person drew a line between property and personhood. And he said, if you are upset, if the reason that you're upset right now is about property being damaged and not about the loss of life, then you are saying that a store is more valuable to you than a human life. And I do agree with him. I think when it's just property, when it's just materials, when the people behind the property are going to survive with relative ease, I agree with him. That's wrong. I'm not upset about that. But when it's someone whose life's blood has gone into a store and then they are attacked due to their proximity to a place of turmoil, that's where I have a harder time coming to terms with that. So that's just my thoughts on, I guess, what's happening right now. I really don't want to start doing that preaching thing of like Black Lives Matter and, reform and demand justice and demand prosecution and all of that. Because, like, although I do believe in those things, I think once you start saying those things, it's very easy to think that you're done and that you do nothing else. So what I am working on right now is I'm trying to find contact information, primarily email, I think, because if I try calling right now, I don't think I'll get through. But I want to try to use my position as a resident of the area, as a registered resident of Minneapolis, to add my voice to the crowd of people demanding that this be avoided in the future. I'm so nervous to post anything on social media because, from an admittedly very selfish standpoint, social media for me is my way of remembering the highlights of my life, or the funny things, or the things that make me go, And the socially responsible thing would be to visually demonstrate my support of these movements by posting something and saying, I am with you. If you see this, I am with you. But for some reason, to me, social media, because of the way that I've curated my social media, because of who I'm friends with, because of who I've unfollowed or unfriended, I don't think I have that many people who disagree with me. And so, to some extent, posting on social media just feels like shouting into the void. And it's partly because of everything from recent political things, from all of the campaigning, from the fake news, from the misinformation and everything. I don't put a lot of stock in what I see on on Facebook, or on Instagram, or on Twitter, because it's mostly just words. And the things that I feel more secure in is the words that are accompanied by some proof of action, words that are accompanied by a phone number, words that are accompanied by, in the event of like politics, like an "I voted" sticker or something to, that thing. Every time there's a shooting and someone says, "Oh, my prayers to the family," like stuff your prayers, do something about it besides, typing prayers for blah blah blah. That's nothing. It does nothing. So I think I don't even know why I'm saying this, like to justify to myself that I'm making the right decision not to post on social media. I don't know if I am or not. I'm sure people could be of the opinion that I'm being a coward by not saying something on social media. I don't know. I prefer to leave my social media out of it and just go directly to the action and avoid the words. Although I just realized that I've been saying a lot of words here. And it will be going on YouTube, which is a form of social media. Gotten myself into a quandary here. But in any case, that's what I'm thinking now. I want to primarily, just one more time, say George Floyd. Rest in peace. I just realized I didn't say that much about the police. And I guess that was kind of intentional. My uncle is a police officer, and in Minneapolis, he's he's based out of Minneapolis, and I actually don't know what his position is on any of this. I don't know what his opinion is, or what he thinks, or what he's heard. Right now, it's the police that are the focus of this call for cleansing, I suppose you could say. Which, yeah, I agree with it. People who abuse their power, people who allow their biases, their prejudices, their fears to leak into the performance of their duty, that's reprehensible to me. But it's not just the police, it's the government, it's corporations, it's anybody in a position of power. I have no idea how you get so many people out of power so that the world is a safer place. Like, do you start in one and then continue to the next area? Do we start with the MPD and then go, okay, well, Minneapolis, and then St. Paul, and then Winona, and then Shakopee, and then, moving out, Ames, Iowa, and San Francisco, and Nashville or something? Do you start locally and branch out? Do you do everything a little bit progressively? Do you fire everyone, rehire the ones that pass whatever test you can possibly come up with to evaluate decency? I don't know how this works. And I don't want to let the police off the hook, because those 4 officers were just incomprehensibly evil in that moment. That was an evil thing that they did. The one who had his knee on the guy's neck had apparently 10 other complaints against him. And the fact that they were just, I don't know what the details are. They haven't released the details of the, I think the investigation is ongoing. But the fact that he had 10 complaints against him and was still allowed to be on duty, is that a starting point? When do we see that move from the focus on police to the focus on legislation, to the focus on FBI, to the focus on the internet, to healthcare, to pharma, to mass distribution. Like, where is it not? I guess. I don't know. It's a very frustrating position to be in. And that's coming from someone who is not a member of the community that has just suffered a great loss. So I can't imagine how much worse it is for them. And I'm not going to ask them. I'm not going to ask people of color how they feel. They do not need to explain themselves to me. The police need to explain themselves to everyone. And then the politicians, and then the pharma, and then the mass distribution. Everyone in power needs to do that. I am not going to come to any conclusions at this moment.